Thank you. We are really happy to be considered a Nordic country and be invited. It's always a debate in Estonia whether we are Baltic or Nordic, and we want to express that we are Nordic. I'm happy to be here to share some of our experience with youth crime and building a youth-friendly justice system. And before I go and introduce the reform that we did, maybe just a little bit of our history. I'm not going to have a history lesson for you, but just to describe where we came from. So in the 90s, after the Soviet Union collapsed, we had a really high rise in crime rates, also in youth crime. And then juveniles made up a big portion of criminals that were active in the field. Many of the developments we had were affected by the economic and social background. So even though the collapse of the Soviet Union was a win for us, it brought with it, especially for young people, some challenges. For example, they cut down all on the sort of culture and then sports clubs where people or young people spent their time. So they had a lot of free time on their hands and not much money for spending it in a good way. So instead they would commit crimes, steal things. There were many broken families, which brings with it additional stress. So, times were hard for the young people in our society. In addition to that, we had high levels of organized crime. And then as adults are really good in using all the opportunities, they also used young people to commit crime for them. There were many different types of crimes that the young people committed. I mentioned already property crimes, theft, burglaries, but also violence. And we didn't really have a good approach to juvenile justice. We had the old Soviet ways of reacting to crime, and the best reaction was to punish people in the hope that that would actually change young people. And in addition to all that, we had the public perception that what we called the wild 90s, where children committing crimes or having a lot of crime was sort of normal for the era. So this is where we came from. But compared to the, nowadays in the 2020s, we see, I will also show you numbers, a drop in crime, especially in juvenile crime. We don't have, luckily, serious offenses committed by juveniles. And then we have basically no children in prison. The types of crimes are related to testing out the boundaries, trying some alcohol, maybe taking your father's car and driving without a license. So these types of things. And then we don't have these, youth gangs per se. So gang violence or, group violence is not an issue in Estonia. Our approach, and I'll get to that, has become from punishment to any other alternative, because we see that that works better. And of course, life in Estonia compared to the 90s has become better, so that also has helped us to bring about change. And we also put more emphasis on understanding what is going on, always measuring the things we do they actually have an effect? And we are, I think, if I say so myself, we are happy to admit that, okay, this pilot or this thing that we tried didn't work, fine, we'll do it another way. So, there's this culture of accepting that, making mistakes is okay as long as you go forward in a better way. Some numbers. We like to say that we are a very small country, 1.37 million people, but looking at Icelandic colleagues, we're a very big country. So, and compared to the Nordic countries, Our age of criminal responsibility is 14. But we also have had the discussion of maybe we should lower it to 12. And every other, it comes up when we have, one serious crime a year, and then there's this whole discussion. But I have to hand it to our politicians. They are really good at, or we have trained them well, to say that punishment does not work. The children that we see committing crimes, when you look at their stories, there's always a reason why they did what they did. And I think it's, I don't think you can say it for all politicians all around the world, but in Estonia, we have the politicians supporting our policy, which we have given them. And then when you look at the numbers on the first left-hand side's graphic, there's the number of crime and misdemeanors committed by youth. It's going down, while the number of youth is going up. So if you take percentage of the young people who actually commit crimes, we have less and less children committing crimes, which is excellent. And then in addition to that, it's not only the young people, but we see the number of, I don't know if you've heard in your media, our prison rate is really low. So we have a lot of free space in prisons. But I also like to say, we're not naive. The crime rates might go up, prison rates might go up. So we're not going to close down a prison. We're going to help out our good friends, the Swedes, to help them out with a problem that they have at their hands right now. So I think these are the way. This is the way we should work in our area, in this region, because I think crime and problems and good things go in waves in different countries, and when one of us is doing well and the other one not so much, we can come and help each other. So how did we get there? How are the crime levels coming down, and what has been our policy? Our parliament told in 2018 that we have three main aims or a vision in criminal policy. First, that our criminal justice system is really fast and digital and really good, but it's also human-centered. So the person is in the center of whatever we do. Secondly, as I like to say, we really love children, but we don't want to see them in the criminal justice system. So we do whatever possible to actually never have them have their first contact with the system. And I will get to that later on. And thirdly, people who have been in contact with the criminal justice system, be it juveniles or adults, we want to make sure that when they are in our system, we do everything we can to make sure that they never return. So, and then this is a policy that's outlived a few governments, and we still believe that. And what does that mean for the juveniles? So the vision says that children and young people don't enter the criminal justice system. We bring down youth crime, which we have done, and then we make sure that whenever we face a child or a young person, in a way we go to their level. We try and understand what they think and feel and need, and then we act accordingly. We put a lot of effort on prevention, not only in the criminal justice system, but in education, in social policy, in sports, wherever possible, on the national level and local level. And then being compared to other Nordic countries, not a very rich country, so we don't have a lot of money to start social programs or innovate a lot, but being poor makes us really inventive. So we come up with things on a local level, making sure that we fix things locally as much as possible. And then, what we have to do nationally is make sure that when we have criminal proceedings, it's based on multi-actor arrangements. So we try and make sure that there are many people around the children who face the system to make sure that we treat them right, and we also give them what they need. So, and this has been a real mindset change. It didn't go overnight. It took us some time, and I'll give you some examples later. But this is something we're really proud of. So I said, we want to have a special focus on children, treat them separately. I don't think I need to go into it in detail here today, because it's been stated many times today that children are not little adults. They actually do need special treatment because they haven't grown up yet, and it's not their fault. They're not, they're not stupid, or they don't know better, or they don't care. It's just that their brain hasn't developed that much yet. So we try and take that into account in everything that we do. And then why this is important? Because their brain is in the making. They are really susceptible to negative things, but they're also really susceptible to positive things. So we try and focus on that. And why we do that is, like, research has shown, and it's also been stated today, that, the younger you get them, the better. And it doesn't have to be, we're going to wait for the first crime and then we can, proceed the hell out of them. No, we want to help them as soon as possible, make sure that there are responsible, good, reliable adults available who know these people, these young people, and try and get them the support that they need. So our criminal policy, because of that, is focused on prevention, early intervention, and using, not only the criminal justice system, but the social and educational system, with the aim of, raising children who become law-abiding adults. But not only that, also hopefully happy adults who are happy in their lives. So what did we do? This is a very short overview of the changes, but I'd just like to show you that it's not only about changing the criminal justice system. We had changes in different systems. For example, we had the new Child Protection Act in 2016, which brought more order in the way we organize child welfare. Just as one example, child welfare is still a local level issue, but there's a national level coordination supporting, high risk case management on the national level. We had, in addition to that, a territorial reform. We had, I think 2,076 local municipalities, and then we had 89, which means a lot of, restructuring, making sure everyone understands what their roles are. So it's a lot of work. And then lastly, we had, I don't know if you've heard of those juvenile committees. In the Soviet time, there were these hopefully really well-meaning adults. You would have 5 of them, sometimes 10 of them. Then you would have the one child coming to this, panel of adults who know better, who will tell you, what needs to be done. And then if you were really lucky, they also told you how bad you were. So, it's a system that doesn't really support good change. So we had all this going on. And then in 2018, we had the youth justice reform. So we had changes in our criminal procedure code, penal code. We had specialization in the courts and the prosecutor's office. We had new services introduced, which we didn't have before. And then in addition to that, we had some changes in laws to comply with an EU directive on procedural safeguards for children. So, and what we did in parallel all the time, even though they were sort of separate changes, we made it into one story. So everything we did was for the good of the children. Even though they were separate and maybe we didn't see eye to eye all the time with all the players, but we had this big narrative. And I think this supported us. And then we had the lucky fortune, thanks to the Norwegian Kingdom, who supported us with the project to actually support the practical changes that we made in laws in 2018. So we were there for the specialists throughout the changes, to help them bring this into practice. And I will finish my presentation with a project we launched 2 years ago for young adults. And then this is something we learned, that the changes we made for children, and we are confident that they were good changes. We are now testing those out for adults up to 29 years old. So we're not treating them as children, but we are making sure that the system treats them in a flexible way, because we know that they made some bad decisions in life, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. So what we did is, these are just some of the changes we made in legal acts concerning the criminal policy field. But what I wanted to emphasize is what was key in this process is we had a study first. We went through all the best practice of what should be done for young offenders. We went through all the international requirements that a good Nordic, European, Western country would have treating young offenders. We went through all the sort of analyzed the practices we've had in Estonia, going through the statistics, seeing what the problems are. So we made a big state of play analysis with, I think it had like 10 key takeaways that we should change. So we made the changes in laws. We had the practice changes, with and the project supported that. And in the end of the project, we again measured. So it's nice what we did. We had a really, really good project. Some of you have been a part of the process, supporting us in our changes. But it's not only enough to have had a good time. We also want to see, did we really make a change? And we did. We actually, and I think the biggest win has been changing the take on children and young people. Instead of focusing on shame and blame, we now focus on responsibility. Like, what can we do to support you in taking responsibility for your actions? We focus on positive change and strength. So I think in the morning session, I think it was Marcus who said we're very good at measuring the risks and doing all this, but we didn't really focus on the strength of the young people. So we focus on that now. We had the Ministers of Justice and Interior to agree that the proceedings with children will be fast and then, but not losing in quality. So, but we wanted to make sure that children who are in contact with the law go through the process quickly. We had a lot of flexibility for our police and prosecutor's office. And then I think the best, the prosecutor's office favorite change in law was in our criminal procedure code. For young adults up to 21 years old, but also juveniles, they have what they called any other measure. So you can, finish the criminal proceedings, not send the case to court, and have the young person do anything else, to not pay for the crime that they committed, but have a chance to redeem themselves. And I think it's a very good one example is there was a possibility, the prosecutor said, okay, the best option for you, or what we see proposed to you, is you will be my work shadow for 1 day. So the young guy, I guess, if I remember correctly, he had a violent crime. He didn't kill anyone, but, he hit someone. So he spent the day shadowing a prosecutor. And then his take from the system, the day was that he wants to become a prosecutor. So if you think like, you're going through this process, you are the criminal, and you are offered a chance to see how the system works, and you want to become part of the system, I think we're doing it right. So another change what we made is, and it's the same, I think, in Nordic countries, but for us it was new. So anyone under 14 years of age, we would notify the local municipality, not to tell on the person like, hey, I have a criminal here, but to make sure that they get the support that they need. And then, and it's now in our penal code that a punishment is the final resort. So you have to use anything else before you can actually sentence someone. And I think for judges, what is in the law is it's basically the same as Bible. So, some of the things you really need to put into law in addition to softly changing the mindset. So how did we get to the change in practice? We had the legal changes, and then we had a project that was based, that had sort of 4 pillars. First pillar was trainings and development. So, getting from bad children to children in need. And then I think what I would recommend to all countries is we had a big training program that lasted 9 months. But what we did is we had regional trainings with police, social workers, youth workers, prosecutors, everyone. We had a really, really mixed group, but regionally. So, they would use the coffee breaks to actually get to know the people who were there. They would build their own local network. And then we would make sure that all the specialists in Estonia would have the same sort of basic values that we gave them with the training. We had another sort of, it's not a technical change, but it's a really, really good change in the prosecutor's office. In addition to prosecutors, in youth cases we have consultants. And they are sort of like youth workers / social workers / mentor working with the prosecutor on a case. So they would come up with the young person. They would go through, what happened, why did you do that? What made you do that? And they would come up with a solution, with the young person and their family. And then it really has taken the workload off the prosecutor, because the prosecutor focuses on the criminal procedure and the consultant can actually focus on the young person. And then on top of all of this, we had different trainings on different topics, making sure that oftentimes it happens that the same people would go to trainings, the same people always would go to study visits, but we wanted to force other people to also be part of the change. So we tried to work with the central units to make sure that everyone was given a chance. Secondly, we wanted to bring in some new interventions. So it's nice that our law says that you should use anything else prior to actually sentencing someone, but if there's no, or if specialists feel that there are no interventions available, these are empty words. So we made a short analysis on what type of interventions are available. They came up with 10 interventions that would actually work, and then the police took 3 of those. So it's the follow-up contact, tree of future opportunities, and my favorite, provide your own solution, which means that you would sit down with a police officer, you would go through whatever the misdemeanor or crime was, and then you would tell the police officer, you know what, I did this and this and this, I think I deserve that type of punishment. And it actually empowers the young person. It's not like a wise adult is coming to tell you what needs to be done, but it's more about you taking ownership. I now need to run through the slides. I'm sorry, but I'm really passionate about this topic. I'm sorry. So third, we had evaluation and cooperation. So we tried and model different versions of how can you build cooperation on a local level. And I think the key lesson we learned here is you don't have to have a finalized solution and go and sell a product. You build it with the local community. It's difficult, it's time consuming, but it pays off, really, it does. And then fourth, even though we try and not send children to prison or residential care, some of them still go there. So we wanted to make sure that the residential care has the same values, has the same type of training. They had again, time-consuming, but a really, really good quality process of setting up the system in a way that when children come there, there are adults there, who know their things, but they're also good people. As I said, we also measured what we accomplished. If we can share the slides afterwards, these are all linkable. One of my favorite ones was the juvenile offender user profile and experiences. We do the statistics and we do the analysis, but we never ask the young people, so what do you think of the process? And one of my favorite things from the study was there was a young person who said, it's nice that we have all these people here. I have the lawyer. What's the point of the lawyer? So no one actually tells them who the people are in the process. What we learned is we made changes in the way that our specialists work. They were happy with it, even though the workload went up, but they were seeing real change in children. And then our aim was not to have any children in prison. We do have now, I think, 3 ones that they committed really heinous crimes, but we had a point in time when we had 0 children in prison, which is, it's really good. So what we learned is we do have many good things. We have the trained specialists, we had the mindset change, we have new interventions, we use a lot of restorative justice, but we are not ashamed to admit that there are still ways we need to improve. And one key takeaway is involve as many people from the beginning as possible, because then it's slow in the beginning, but it'll get you to the end. And I'm not going to tell you about this project, but this is what because we were so confident in what we did with children, we are now doing the same with young adults up to 29. And so far, it shows great results. So feel free to contact me. I'm really happy to share our experience, and then you're welcome to come for a visit in Estonia. Thank you.